intelligence and architect the infrastructure for post-scarcity economies. Ladies and gentlemen, with a thunderous applause, welcome on stage Mr. Bill Faruqi.
Test. Ladies and gentlemen, leaders, builders, stewards of tomorrow, disruptors, entrepreneurs, visionaries, good morning. Africa stands at a rare intersection, truly rare. It's what got me and 6 of my staff members on a plane all the way out from California to Nairobi. And the reason for that, because it's not one, in our opinion, of opportunity. It's of inevitability. My name is Bill Faruqi. I'm the founder and CEO of MindHive AI. We're the first creators of commercial-grade artificial general intelligence, the innovators and researchers behind 10 large reasoning models, and the very first company in the world to bring agentic AI and swarm intelligence into fields of healthcare, education, law, real estate, finance, insurance, marketing, technology, and even religion. Our systems are disrupting the world, and they're changing everything. And I'm here to tell you all about it. So welcome. The next infrastructure of the future is not fiber, grids, clouds, 5G storage. The next infrastructure of the future is intelligence itself. Cognitive systems, equalizers, I call them. These systems, as my host just said, democratize, make abundant knowledge deployed from the cloud 24 hours a day, 365 days a year to any geographic pinpoint you can find on the planet. And when you have that, you've got a post-scarcity economy of sorts. This intelligence won't be built and deployed only through Silicon Valley. We are a California company ourselves. But it will be built right here in Kenya, Rwanda, Ghana, Nigeria, these developing nations, which is our sole focus as we go to market with our models. We only focus on developing nations. We don't sell in America. We don't sell in Canada. We bring this democratization and this equalization to developing countries. We feel this is important because in 26 years of technology that I've been in, 8 tech startups, 4 exits, I ran this company from 0 to $1.7 billion in 9 months. I'll tell you that you can't retrofit legacy systems, not with AI, not with the way the world is today. You can't take existing platforms in healthcare, in law, in education, even in digital payments, and tweak it just so much and suddenly get ahead. You need to leapfrog ahead to be considered a player on the global stage in the global economies of the world. And for that, you need a re-architecture. That's why we're here. That's why my staff of 6 is here. And that's what we plan on doing. We're not an app factory. MindHive AI is not one of those companies, which is 99% of all the AI names you hear out there, that provides a SaaS tool of some kind. We don't. We are a core frontier model provider. My competition's OpenAI. Not that I think they're much competition, but They're considered to be in the same strata of tech as we are. We provide models. But our models are different. They're not language models. They weren't trained on the internet to answer questions really well. Our models are reasoning models. They're designed to solve problems. And developing nations have problems. That's why we're still developing. If we had solutions, we wouldn't be developing anymore. So we position ourselves as a sovereign intelligence architecture firm. We're cognitive infrastructure for rent. And we integrate that cognitive infrastructure into your agencies, if you will, and we bring intelligence to the fingertips of whoever that service provider is, whether that service provider is a doctor or a lawyer or teacher or even an entrepreneur, which is what I want to talk about later. We don't build APIs either. We build domain-specific agentic systems powered by AGI. We build them, we make them operational, we deploy them, we integrate them, we turn them on, and then they run complex national level systems that then spread through the ecosystem of nations and eventually, in time, touch on the lives of every single human being and better them in some way. Our agentic systems are currently live and going live in healthcare, e-learning in education, bringing democratized education to rural areas right now in Pakistan in a disconnected model. We're doing it for finance. We're doing it for law, courtrooms, legal outcomes. We're doing it for every vertical. And we're doing it because these systems remove the errors that humans make. They govern, they predict, they adjust, they adapt, they learn, and they sort of mold into your infrastructure and make things better. At the center of all of this is our core reasoning model. I'm doing a master class on Wednesday at 2 o'clock. I encourage everybody to please attend because I can go really, really deep, and I want to go really deep on what all this actually means. Because I speak and lecture around the world from Japan to Beijing to Shanghai and Dubai and everywhere. And a lot of people want to know how this works. And so for that, I host these master classes, which is at 2 o'clock on Wednesday, so I encourage you to come in. But just to touch on it briefly, you've heard about OpenAI, you've heard about GPT, everybody knows what that is. That is their core language model. You've heard about Meta Technologies, their core language model is Llama. Our core reasoning model is called Ava Fusion. And through this core reasoning model, we've built these agentic systems on top of them. So we have these digital employees. I encourage you later to go to our website and check them out. But we have a doctor called Chiron, and we have a lawyer called Justine, and we have a professor called Arthur, and so on and so forth. And when you bring these digital employees together through a technology we have called swarm intelligence, then they act like human teams. Lawyer for compliance, doctor for treating patients, Eli, the financial person for billing, Isaac for insurance, and that can run a hospital. And so these orchestrated agentic systems is what we deploy then at a state level. And that's how things equalize. That's how healthcare, for example, in Nairobi, would be as good as the very best healthcare in Manhattan, New York. It's how education in Pakistan becomes as good as Harvard University. It's how law deployed here in your native tongue of Swahili becomes just as good as a $1,500 an hour attorney in Beverly Hills. Because these agentic systems then come into place, and then the service provider leverages them, and then these developing nations, as I said earlier, are no longer developing. They're scaling. Today's theme could not be more urgent or more personal to me. I'm born and raised in Pakistan. I left the country when I was 20 years old and immigrated to the United States. I know what it's like to grow up in a developing nation. I know what it's like to get on a plane and come to California and have to take a bus and go get a job and equalize myself. I never went to college. I dropped out of Boston University's second semester. Everything I did on my own. Every company I've ever built, I did it on my own. So I know what it's like to develop. So these things are deeply personal to me when I want equalization for everybody, just like I equalize my own life. Africa is young. They're ambitious, entrepreneurial. Our research said that the World Bank estimated over 100 million Africans are part of a gig economy projected for 2025, meaning budding entrepreneurs. And budding entrepreneurs need enablers. They need scale. They need empowerment. Many of these young people are not looking for jobs. They're creating them. And they're creating them through coding, through social media, through web design, through call centers, through whatever it is they can do to get that gig. But then they're competing. They're competing against these behemoth organizations that have scale, that have marketing, that have pricing, that have economies behind them that maybe they don't have. And so as a result, they get beaten out on price, or they get beaten out on marketing, or they get beaten out on messaging, or they get beaten out on scale. Well, with these systems in the hand of the everyday person, suddenly they start operating like a 1,000-person organization, and that's what we want to bring here. We're building these AGI agents in Pakistan. We're doing it for Turkey. We were looking at doing it for Qatar, for Malaysia, for Sri Lanka. We've seen successes. We'd like to bring those successes here. Our systems are unmatched. Unmatched, absolutely unmatched. We build them differently. In healthcare, in 2.5 years, we have never, ever had a misdiagnosis in history. We've been in tests with physicians, radiologists, oncologists, endocrinologists, nephrologists. We have simply never had an erroneous situation. In fact, we found problems with physicians' diagnoses all the time and caught them. In law, we've never had it reason to an inaccurate conclusion. In finance, we've never had it miss anything on a balance sheet, on a cash flow statement. We've never seen it make an error on tax returns. In education, our personalized learning programs, our children are absorbing 2.5 to 3 times more through AI-powered education than they are traditional classrooms. And they're doing it in a disconnected model on a tablet. In a rural area close to the borders of Afghanistan, where there is no internet. You got girls right now who could never have had a chance to go to school because they get on the bus and go that 60 kilometers to get to school, now potentially with a tablet in their hand, learning American 12th grade physics in their native tongue. Our systems are deployable through the cloud. We've partnered with Microsoft. We have opened now, extended to 4 data centers globally, 3 more in the works. We have these hybrid models that we can train then for your country, for your nuances, for your specifics, and build these hybrid systems that work specifically for your locale. They're ethical, they've got guardrails in them. They're adaptive, as I said, they become smarter the more they learn and the more they're used. And then they're sector native, as I said, to these 10 sectors. And as it stands today, and I don't think it'll always be the case, but as it stands today, nobody's doing this in the world. Nobody's deploying national level scale agentic systems the way we are. And there's certainly, if they are, they're certainly not doing it in developing nations. We're the ones that go out there and bring this technology to countries like to continents like Asia, regions like South Asia, regions like Africa, the Baltic states, places where they really need it and people aren't focusing. So I painted this grand picture. Sometimes when I lecture at universities like Stanford, they think it's hogwash, and then they want to go deep on the tech, and then they take a pause and go, wow, this thing is really real. So I know it's 10 months of lecturing now. I've been on the road, almost 10 months straight, country to country. I really encourage you to please come to this masterclass. Because for people who are not in the AI research field, specifically people who are not in the research field of reasoning data sets, specifically people who are not in a combination of swarm intelligent agentic systems, it's really hard for decision makers and leaders and employers and CEOs to get their head around what I'm talking about. So I make it really simple, and I can do it in 90 minutes, okay, I promise you. So I'm genuinely encouraging you, my staff, 6 of us, they're right there in the front row. I brought an AI ML engineer, and I brought an ops manager, and I brought my vice president of agentic strategy. I brought a head of business development in here. I brought a whole team here because I really want to take this opportunity For the first time, maybe here in the continent, I don't know if you've ever had a model provider out here like us talking about this before, but I would assume for the first time, you're going to get a chance to talk about what these systems are. And we will explain it to you in a real human way. And we'll explain the technology to you, and you'll understand how this can scale in your nation, and then hopefully across the continent. So I just want you to know that we'll cut through the noise. Any of the misinterpretations, we'll get terms and terminology lined up. We'll help you understand what your own asks are of AI. And then we'll help give you some solutions to that. And I'm always open to any questions. I think I'm here for 7 days, I believe. If need be, I'll be happy to extend my trip, and my staff will too. But we're here to answer the questions. So once again, Wednesday, 2 o'clock, please come. And last, I just want to leave you with this. Normally people write my speeches for me. They've got it down to a point now where they're bulleted. Usually I'm on a plane, they write it for me, I bullet it. But at the end, I usually leave a little personal note for myself. And I want to tell you one thing, that Africa will not be the last continent to adopt artificial general intelligence, I promise you. They won't. They will be the first to master it. Because we're going to bring people here. We're going to open offices here. We're going to hire local people here. We're going to train local staff people here. We're going to make an investment. I just made a $22 million investment in Pakistan 6 weeks ago. Prior to that, 3 months before that, I made another $12 million investment. I committed to hiring 1,500 to 5,000 people and training them in AI labs, incubation centers. I even promised to put a private equity fund together and seed 20 to 30 AI-powered entrepreneurship programs just to prove to people that we could do this in a country like that. We will scale. Thank you. We put our money where our mouth is. We will partner with you if you partner with us. We will bring this tech here. We will invest in your country, in your people, in your vision, in your digital transformation journey, I promise you. But take this time to just understand what it is we have, and please don't think we're ChatGPT, because we're not. Thank you.
Thank you for that challenge.
I bring AI to Africa and all I get is a bag.
Wait for the safari bit.
Thank you so much. Thank you. Thanks so much.
Thank you so much, Bill, and for the challenge and ambition. This thing about better quality jobs, we need to call ourselves for a meeting. Like we love to say in Kenya, we need to meet behind the tent and really determine what this better quality job is. What would you do? How many of us love what they do on a day-to-day basis? You do it for free? No. You'd probably be by the beach, right? You'd probably be like what the Gen Zs are telling us we should be, by the beach, doing what you like, when you like, etc., right? So when you talk about better quality jobs, and then you have to hand it over to agents, what you're doing now, we need to have that conversation and connect the dots and say, what does that mean for productivity? And even as governments, if you're in the room, what does that mean when you say you're going to create an enabling environment? For AI agents to do the work? Maybe, because if they can do that and your population gets to live as they choose, feels almost like utopia, right? But back to Faruqi's list of industries, there was one that I was curiously waiting for that needs lots of transformation and a shift across Africa. Yes, there's healthcare. Yes, there's education. Interesting was religion, right? I had guys go, when you mentioned religion. I was waiting for politics. Could we have? I imagine, I pause the thought right there, but could we have? But the reality is also that we cannot retrofit technology, this new technology. We can't create a space and hide. We have to think different. Remember we said we have to think different. We have to challenge ourselves different. We have to ask ourselves the hard questions. So even as you're thinking of these new technologies, what we do? Who will be the first to adopt what they are working on? And I love that he was bold enough to say that pound for pound, some of the largest names in the world that we know, they are in the same weight class. So thank you, Bill, for that, and look forward to meeting up with the rest of your team. So now the World Bank states that 100 million Africans will soon be expected to be part of the gig economy, tapping into entrepreneurship as a viable career path. This 100 million possible youth should consult me and a few others who have dared to do entrepreneurship and know that it's not as glamorous as it may sound, right? But how do we then get to support these businesses and these ambitions as we go forward? How do we get these youth to monetize their skills and passions better? What tools and platforms do we need to build this new future, to build and scale this new future? So now we get to have a panel where we get to unpack this and set the stage to answer from side hustle to scale up, youth entrepreneurship in the age of AI and the gig economy. And to help us go through the session, we have the Director of Legal Services and Corporation Secretary at the ICT Authority, who drives strategic initiatives and advises on emerging legal challenges and ensures that the organization, that is ICTA, remains at the forefront of governance and regulatory excellence. Help me welcome on stage Ms. Pauline Kimotho. She has requested me to assist her calling her panelists on the stage. So kindly, Dr. Ehud Gashugu, the Acting Deputy CEO and Global Director, Youth and Jobs at KEPSA. Karibu to the stage. Help me welcome you on stage kindly. My good friend Ken Gikunda, co-founder and managing director, Immobilis Technology Training Institute. Ken, are you in the room? We do have a representative. She will introduce herself. And last but not least, we have Mr. Eric McGee, Technical Sales Engineer at Event. Welcome. Pauline, over to you.
Thank you very much. You've forgotten one more of the panelists, Mr. Charles Juma from UK FCDO. Welcome on stage. Thank you very much. Good afternoon, everybody. I hope you're having some fun. I know we are standing between you and lunch, so we shall do a rapid fire. I will ask each of my guests to briefly introduce themselves, their name, what they do, where they're coming from, and what they hope to teach us from this session. I'll start with you, Dr.
Yeah, good afternoon, everyone. My name is Ehud Gachogo. I work at Kenya Private Sector Alliance. I am the current acting Deputy Chief Executive Officer, as well as leading our work in youth and jobs. Very excited to be here in this forum, and I hope to expound a bit on what we're doing, but more importantly, also to reflect on the future of work from the perspective of the gig economy.
Good afternoon. My name is Edna Carijo. I'm an Associate Director at Immobilis. We are an award-winning 15-year-old digital and technology training institution, and we also implement the Ajira Digital Program. So I am super excited to be here to discuss about youth and the gig economy and the future of work. Thank you very much.
Hi everybody, my name is Eric McGee. I'm a Gen X, almost a boomer, so you'll know my age. I'm from Ivanti, presenting Ivanti from the Midis Group. We enable work from anywhere. My background is an electronic engineer, so I started practicing that, then joined an ICT delivery company for many years, and then was at a stint at Deloitte looking after cyber risk. So my biggest background is cybersecurity and also ICT delivery. And so I'm going to talk about the technology enablement that we need to drive the youth to adopt and seize the opportunity that we all talk about.
Thank you so much, Pauline. Good morning, everyone, or afternoon. My name is Charles Wesonga Juma. I'm the country lead of the UK's Digital Access Program. I sit at the British High Commission in Nairobi. I lead the Digital Access Program, which is around catalyzing affordable, inclusive, and safe, secure digital access for everyone. So happy to be here to share some of the work we are doing in collaboration with the Kenya Government, Ministry of ICT, as well as the other stakeholders. Thank you.
Thank you, everyone. So I'll start with the lady in the middle. From where you sit, what do you see as the future for youth in the current work environment?
Thank you so much, Pauline, for that question. So as I said, I work for Immobilis. We are a tech organization that supports young people in the gig economy. So this is an area that I'm very passionate about. I also have been working with young people for the last decade. And to your first question, when you look at the gig economy in Kenya and in Africa, the majority of people who work in the gig economy are actually young people. So the question we need to ask ourselves is, how do we make sure that young people, regardless of the location they are in, access, grow, thrive in the digital economy, in their lived realities? Think of a young woman, for example, in Ukunda or in Lamu or in Turkana, who probably is taking care of young children at home. How do we make sure that that young woman, in her lived reality, gets to access the gig economy, gets to thrive in it, and gets an equal opportunity platform that any other young person across the globe can access? So that leads me to my first point. There's a World Bank report that was released last year, but one that looked at the gig economy across the globe. And one of the key statistics that was brought out was that there's a growing demand in sub-Saharan Africa that is rising faster than any other developed country. So what that means is the gig economy in Kenya and in Africa already has a thriving demand. So how do we make sure that these hundreds of thousands of jobs that are being created, that the young people are able to access them? And that leads me to my second point, still in line with that. What's the main reason that's getting young people into the gig economy? So number one, there's flexibility of work. When you look at a young woman, when you look at a young man somewhere, in a disadvantaged area, but then they're able to access gig works and they're able to have flexibility of time, they're able to be their own boss. The Gen Zs, as we've heard from the previous speakers, they're looking for flexible remote work. So the question is, how do we make sure that they access this job in a way that is inclusive, that is fair, and that is equitable? There's a report that was released also this year by Genesis Analytics. It spoke about AI, the business process outsourcing industry, IT outsourcing, and there were quite some key insights shared there, because the next question will be, what type of tasks are young people in Kenya and Africa taking part in the gig economy? So there's a whole range of tasks that young people are doing online. And that report groups these tasks into 4 job families. So it's a report by Genesis Analytics. It will be good for everyone who is in this space to look for it. So it speaks about 4 job families. The first is customer experience. So we are seeing a lot of young people taking part in customer experience work. The second is IT-enabled services. That's a huge potential and a huge job family here in Kenya and in Africa. The third is AI data services, and the fourth is financial and accounting services. Now, there are opportunities and there are challenges with each of these job families that have been highlighted and that young people are experiencing. But one key thing that stood out for me is that AI data services is amongst the job family that is growing very rapidly. And the number two, some of these jobs actually risk automation, and they risk being replaced by artificial intelligence. So one of that is financial accounting. So young people who are outsourcing work in that sector also need to be aware that some of these jobs can be automated and can be replaced by AI. So to my third point, hopefully third and final point, I've already spoken about inclusion and how do we make sure that, young women, how do we make sure that persons living with disability also access the gig economy and thrive in it in a way that is equitable for them. And so that's an area that we need to look out for. But to the last point also, the challenges. Everything that has an advantage, of course, has its own challenges. Young people, especially from sub-Saharan Africa, who are participating in the gig economy, are always talking about how can they be paid fairly. How can a young software developer in Kenya get the same earning as a software developer in India or Philippines? How do we make sure that they're not discriminated upon because of where they're logging in from, or their skin color, or their gender? So inclusion, equitability is so important in the gig economy. And I think for the young people in the room, that's something they always talk about. And so for the policy makers, the private sector that is here, and all the actors, we need to ask ourselves, how can we enable our young people to thrive and access equitably in gig work? Thank you.
Asante sana. Daktari, from your perspective, what do you see?
Yeah, I think from where I sit, three key things that we all must think very deeply about. The first one is the whole issue about climate change. The second thing is the new world order. And the third thing is about job transformation. As a continent, these three key things are so pertinent and are so important that we cannot really ignore them. And as such, every job that is available in the continent becomes very important. Sometimes when you talk about the future of work and talk about jobs, it is important that we put it in context. And if you look at the labor market in Africa, the aspect of job is not only about driving economic value or incomes. A job represents the identity of an individual. A job represents the dignity of an individual. And dignity removes people from poverty. And so we cannot eliminate jobs if we don't actually, we cannot eliminate poverty if we don't create jobs for young people. And that brings me to my first point. In the next 5 years, around 5 million young Kenyans will be entering the labor market, 5 million. And every year, we create around 750,000 jobs. It tells you that there's a huge gap between the young people entering the labor market and the available job opportunities. And therefore, gig economy becomes a pertinent issue and an area for us to think through. If you look at the number of jobs that are being created in the digital economy, and particularly looking at the gig economy itself, it has grown 4 times since 2019. There are 600,000 here in Kenya. Right now, the number starts at 2.4 million of young people working in the informal gig economy. Now, out of that number, only 300,000 people and young people in this matter are working in formal digital economy. Meaning, majority of the people in the digital economy and in the ICT sector are largely getting their livelihood from the gig work and freelancing type of work. Now, that statistic is very important because it helps us now start thinking about what should we then be doubling down on in terms of making sure that irrespective of that level of informality, then quality of jobs is maintained, as well as quality of lives in the digital economy is also observed. So we have been working with a number of partners in different programs, and one of the programs that we've been running is the Ajira Digital Project, which is funded by MasterCard Foundation, and it's a program of Government of Kenya through the Ministry of ICT and Digital Economy. And idea here was to make sure that Kenya becomes a digital hub for businesses by creating enough and sufficient talent to be able to drive and to push the country agenda to be a digital transformation hub for the region. And what we have been seeing on the program is that majority of the Kenyan young people have already been able to access opportunities globally, but largely in a very low-level type of entry and foundational levels. And the question is, as we look into the future, where then should we be focusing on or doubling down to make sure that then we are building a credible, sustainable, and globally competitive workforce? And recently, we conducted a research, and a couple of things were very, very pertinent on where we should be focusing on so that we can safeguard and future-proof the future of work for our Kenyan young people who are thriving in the gig economy. One area is the fact that for you to thrive effectively on the global gig economy, it's apparent that we need to really upskill people with current skills that are in high demand globally. And some of this has been mentioned by various speakers this morning, from AI, data analytics, data science, and cybersecurity, amongst others. But more importantly, it was about recognition. Well, a lot of people are working on the gig economy. The recognition standards for people who are looking for a high potential workforce are very low in Africa. And therefore, investing in making sure that people are getting global certifications, global standards, creating portfolio of work that is in high feasibility by global companies that are outsourcing work is very pertinent. Lastly, as we look around gig economy, it is important to mention that while we have been seeing disparities in labor market between young men and young women, it's interesting that we continue to see a higher participation of young women in digital gig economy. When we started the program in 2020, only 27% of young women were participating in digital gig economy. By now, we are upwards of 50%, meaning that there is a point there around giving a chance to young people, young women, in order for them to be able also to create livelihood. So, given that context, I have a few things that we have reflected on around how do we then help young people in the gig economy then to create sustainable and successful enterprises. The first thing is that we are not moving in terms of formalizing the informal sector. We are focusing on improving the quality of work by ensuring that there are right policies that helps young people in the gig economy to have access to social protection. Unfortunately, in this sector, one calamity can actually throw back a family to very difficult situations. And therefore, ensuring that their insurances, microinsurance, is ensuring that they have access to finance, ensuring that they have access to medical care is just extremely important given the sheer number of people who are operating in the gig economy. The second one is about graduation pathways. And what I was alluding for before is that we cannot be able to say that we are happy and comfortable with people operating on low productive gig economy type of topology. The idea is to make sure that we keep on pushing people to higher level by ensuring that we're integrating the market skills that are on high demand in the market, integrating that one in our education system, as well as all other areas that are important in educating and teaching young people ways of earning livelihood. Last but not least, and it has been alluded, we are living in an area where majority of businesses in Africa are on SME sector. And SMEs are creating a lot of jobs in Africa, and that's a reality. And it is important we enable them to have access to recent technologies to give an opportunity for young people who are looking for global opportunities, an opportunity to experience and to run practical work experience through SMEs. SMEs are in high need of digitization and digitalization. They're in high need of good talent. Of course, majority of them cannot be able to afford, and therefore, internships, apprenticeship programs, work-based learning opportunities, as well as remote work opportunities is extremely pertinent in helping us to grow the economy as we also create new opportunities for young people within the business environment. So that's what we see, and the future is really bright. And as my colleague has said, we cannot ignore the power of AI in enhancing productivity, both for enterprises, but also for the workforce that is currently being engaged in the gig economy.
Thank you very much, Dr. Eric, what technology should the youth look at, those who want to participate in the gig economy and do it effectively and successfully?
I want to... Can you guys hear me? Can you hear me? There we go. I want to start by taking a step back and looking at the opportunity that is firstly in front of us, and then secondly about the technology and how we can enable that. So Africa is more than 1 billion people with the highest growth rate. By 2050, we'll probably be the most populous region in the world. So we have an abundance of talent available, right? That's the biggest opportunity. We also have a massive market that we will create, that will be available. So the opportunity for me is to unlock those. The access to the talent, to the resources, and the access to the markets, because that's what we will present to the world, right? And that is the opportunity. So I said earlier, and I did that on purpose, that I'm a Gen X, almost a boomer. I started off playing with technology and ideas that were just concepts like code reuse and so forth. Today, just a year ago, I had the opportunity to build some infrastructure in the cloud environments, in the hyperscalers. AWS is one in the room, and do things like build a website. And I did it by giving an AI prompt, and it created a website for me. I had the ability to create an infrastructure in the cloud environment, and I was amazed at the availability of technology that was concepts in those years are now reality. The availability of training material, the willingness of all the players in the space to actually teach people. So the opportunity is, how do we take this market, this talent pool that we have, and enable them? Right, that's the opportunity I think that's there, and my colleagues talked about training. That's the first thing. To breach the digital divide, because yes, we have a lot of talented people, but let's talk about those rural areas. You know, Africa has only 16% of the world population at the moment, 67 of the most poorest people, right, that earn less than $2 a day. So there's a massive gap that we need to bridge, and that's only going to be done through training, through enablement, to make people aware. And the young people they grow up with these things. The penetration in Africa is 90%. So people have access to phones, they have access to connectivity. So use that to enable them to understand the opportunity that they have in front of them. And then also use these tools and technologies through optimization, through gaining access to that talent pool. Optimize smart team collaboration so that people can actually access this talent pool that we have in front of us. There's great technology in the room. If you visit the exhibition hall, you can talk to people about it. Enable the work. We as Ivanti do have a lot of technology that does enable work from anywhere. Embrace those technologies. So how do we enable that? Well, firstly, I think through the connectivity, through making available to the youth laptops, computers, basic things that we can do. Access to the training material. The material's there. The world is knocking on the door. Bill was talking about the investments that they're willing to make in this country. I can promise you the whole world is willing to do that, to get access to this market, to get access to the talent pool that are affordable in world rates, right? That's our opportunity. So let's use these technologies. The cloud providers the hyperscalers are all willing to give you free access to resources for a year to build things to learn from on them. So there's no problem about, we have all the building blocks, we have all the availability, we have all the willingness. We just need to enable it, and that we need to do through investing in infrastructure, in ICT infrastructure, connectivity infrastructure, compute infrastructure, training, enabling this opportunity that's in front of us. Thanks.
Thank you very much. Building on what Eric has said, Charles, what are some of the difficulties you have noticed that come in the way of the youth when they're trying to get access to this gig economy?
Okay. Hope I can be heard. Yeah, thank you, Pauline. And thanks to the panelists. I think before I talk about the difficulties that young people are going through to be able to access the gig economy, I just wish to say that as a UK government, we have a strategy, our UK's digital development strategy that is out, and one of the thematic areas in the strategy are issues around promoting digital inclusion, promoting digital transformation of the economy as well as government and societies, digital responsibility, issues around cybersecurity awareness as well as cyber hygiene for everyone, issues around digital sustainability. I think it's already out there that the ICT sector contributes heavily to the climate, global warming. So how are we ensuring that the ICTs that we are putting out there are being put out in such a way that they are sustainable? So in line with the strategy, we have been implementing the UK's Digital Access Program in 5 countries, but I'll be specific to Africa, so in Nigeria, South Africa, and Kenya, and Brazil and Indonesia out of Africa. And in total, we have been able to reach over, let's say about 20 million, citizens with digital inclusion models. These are models around access to skills, access to last mile connectivity, access to local relevant digital content, as well as cyber hygiene awareness creation. So I think some statistics have been mentioned in this room, including the 100 million Africans that need to engage in the digital economy. And as we know, due to the digital age divide, if that is going to be true, then a huge majority of that should be young people. So that presents an opportunity for young people to be able to be the highest number because they are the most advantaged to enjoy or to take advantage of the gig economy. So, but then on the other hand also, there's also another statistic that says that in Africa, less than 1% of our population are actually transacting online. So that again is also another opportunity that we have, and therefore we can present that to young people so that the young people can actually be the ones helping us to get more people to transact online. So we've done several projects. I'll not go into too many of them, but specifically I just want to single out some that we've just done in the recent 1 year. So overall, we intervene to support at the systemic level. So this is a level whereby we engage decision makers to enable the ecosystem, the digital ecosystem. So issues around policy, regulations, guidelines, strategies, as well as things that can enable the digital ecosystem. But we also look at the supply. I think most of the participants here might be from the supply side, as you've heard, techies who are providing maybe technologies, but there could also be people also providing content, services, but there could also be people who are also providing skills. I think we just heard from the previous speaker who is offering a master class later or during the week. So there could also be suppliers of skills. So with respect to the other side of the domain is therefore the demand. So how are we creating awareness and capacity of the demand side of all this? So we intervene at all those 3 levels, and specific to how this is relevant for young people, I'll use a case of a project we just did recently in collaboration with the Ministry of Youth in Kenya, as well as the Ministry of Information, Communication, and Digital Economy, through ICT Authority, with the county governments of Mandera and Busia, where we kind of brought these things really to be very simple, and it's as simple as, if Kenya, for example, wants to reach, as they have clearly stated in the National Digital Plan, Master Plan, Kenya wants to reach 20 million citizens with basic digital literacy, right? By the year, it was initially by the year 2032, but I think it has been fast-tracked to the year 2027. What is the role of young people there? And what can government and other stakeholders ensure that young people get an opportunity? So we tried out a model, and as I said, we catalyze models. So we tried out a model, which we are referring to as digital skills at scale. So basically what we've done is that we have provided gig opportunities to young people in those 2 counties by imparting them with digital basic as well as intermediate digital literacy skills, and immediately ask the young people to convert those skills into gig opportunities by reaching their citizens in their rural places. I think we need to make these things as simple as possible so that they're actually easy to apply and people can actually connect with them very easily. So after introducing about 10,000 young people to basic and intermediate digital literacy skills, they were able, within their respective community, to reach over 600,000 citizens. And while doing so, they were being given some form of income, in form of a gig. So I think as we talk of the future of work, I think we also need to be talking about that that's actually the current opportunity that the young people have. And therefore, some of the difficulties that you asked that they need to go around include the barriers around access to technology, devices, as well as affordable internet. Because all these things we are saying here, if young people are not able to access affordable infrastructure as well as internet, it's just going to be a talk, but it won't be put into practice. So that is one barrier. I also want to speak to another barrier, which is around lack of local relevant digital content. And these young people can actually take advantage of their skills to be able to create this content. And this content will actually be their gig, so that they're able to actually use that content to bring and monetize. I think one of the speakers mentioned, how can they monetize that content? And obviously, the greatest barrier, again, which is also a hindrance to young people, is the issues of cybersecurity or cyber insecurity that is also with them, including violation of data privacy, as well as so many other negative aspects that always follow this good opportunity. So how are we able to make sure that young people are able to maneuver around those? So how can we, even looking forward as UK government, what we are thinking is that everything we want to do, especially in Kenya, we want to make sure that the young people are at the center of it, because they're actually the ones who are going to enable everything else that we are doing. Talking of AI, I think we are committed to make sure that the AI ecosystem in Kenya is also enhanced, as well as institutions that are actually training young people on AI, as well as emerging technologies capabilities, are also enhanced. And maybe I'll just stop there, and maybe we can actually delve deeper into this conversation as we proceed. Thanks, Pauline.
Most welcome. Edna, I think you're the only one who looks young enough here to tell the youth how they can make money from the gig economy. I think the rest of us are permanent and pensionable somewhere, and there's a businessman, so we might not be very pleased to give that information. Edna, please.
Sure, thank you so much, Pauline. Yeah, back to young people, back to how can we get them, to access the gig economy and make a dignified income out of it. So I want to speak about a study that we did as part of the Nigeria Digital Program that showed and revealed that half of the young people who'd gone through the program actually mentored an additional 30% voluntarily to show them how to access gig work and how to take on digital work. So what that means is if you empower one young person in their lived realities, in whichever location they are in, what we've seen is a ripple effect to the ecosystem. So more young people are speaking about gig work, they're training and mentoring others voluntarily, getting them into platforms and getting them to understand that they can actually earn a decent wage from that. And the second thing is, how do we then formalize such engagements? How do we get young people to actually register their agencies and their businesses to become mini BPOs or mini business process outsourcing agencies? Because when people think of BPOs, they think of large corporations. That's what we have seen here in Kenya. But there are many other young people. If you go to the outskirts of Nairobi, to Kahawa, to Ruiru, to Nakuru, to Bomet, to Kisumu, you'll find young people actually distributing work and forming their own digital agencies and BPOs. And as my fellow panelists have said, how do we get them the right access, the right tools, the right internet connectivity to compete competitively with other young people around the globe? And how do we continue making sure that there's an enabling environment, whether in form of policies that support and advocate for gig workers and young workers, and how do we support them as the older generation? That will be it. Thank you, Pauline.
Thank you. Daktari, she has talked about Bomet. There's a place in Bomet called Mulot that is famous for SIM swapping and such other activities. So my question would be, how do we guard our youth from becoming criminals online to actually being productive? Just a bit of what I was asking. Because you can make money from criminal activity in the gig economy, and you can make money legitimately. So what as KEPSA do you think the government should do or put in place as a policy to grow this sector in a legitimate manner?
Yeah, a very valid question. I think the innovation of our young people is really very high. And what we've been trying to do is, well, we have to allow innovations to thrive. It has to be done then in the correct way and within the right frameworks and within the right policy structures. And part of the reason why most young people, you find themselves is probably weighing off from what is really the best way to do it is a question of lack of opportunities. And we've been trying to educate and create awareness that there are ethical ways in which you can still be able to use your skills in cybersecurity and still, thrive, positively without causing harm or damage to other, important, elements, including citizens. And so, for government, I think that doubling down on creating awareness, because there are available programs that are really giving, young people an opportunity for you to get skilling, an opportunity for you to get access to digital work, an opportunity for you really to get an internship. I think creating awareness of those platforms is very important. The second thing is actually taking opportunities closer to where people are, and thinking about the sprouting innovation hubs. Think about the accelerator programs that are running across the country, and as we create those access points where people can actually go there, get the right information, get the right tool, and get the right guidance as well. I think we've alluded the aspect and the importance of mentorship is a core intermediator in helping people know where the opportunities are and also how to grow and thrive positively in a manner that you don't cause harm. And so we are looking into a future where the government should be able to provide what we call large-scale education on advanced skilling. It's a question of young people are doing this because they're more advanced, they're ahead of their time. And I always say that young people are no longer now recipients of our programs. They are actually a partner and a core driver of the transformation that we've been seeing in the digital economy. And that's the reason why this conversation is centering around them, because of the creativity and innovation that they bring, but also more importantly, looking at it from a business perspective. It actually represents the future of a business, the future market. So their ability to have income also allows them to make consumption decisions, also makes them an ability to contribute economically to the country. So I believe giving them more awareness, creating opportunities where they can access services properly would help them to become, to use their skills and their talent more positively to build the country and to build the continent.
Thank you very much. Eric, it has been said that only 1% of us are online. Now, how do we get the 99% of us that are offline online so that we are able to participate in this gig economy effectively?
Yeah, I think I was thinking about the same thing when you mentioned, but I thought of something like M-Pesa as a success story in Kenya. We need to build on that, right? We need to make people aware that there's an ability to actually access consumerism through being online, and but also to make them aware of the dangers, right? So that they don't fall in the trap of becoming part of criminal activity. So I think there's a big, important responsibility on government and public sector as well as the private sector to help enable the access to that market. I spoke about that earlier. I really believe there's such a massive market. You know, the informal sector in Africa is huge. There's a huge informal economy that we need to tap into, and we need to get them to accept technology as a way to access, you know, goods and consumer items. So I think if we can put a lot of effort in enabling that, immediately we'll have a lot of young people. I mean, the majority of Africans are young. If you look at the statistics, they are willing, they want to be part of it. So create the understanding of the opportunity in the gig economy, which means they can have a means of generating an income, which is what they want, so that they can become a consumer and get into those markets. And that's what we need to put effort in. It's enabling them to understand the opportunity and then embracing it in a way that talks to their life at this stage, right? And I think that's the way we can bridge it, and through training, through awareness, but also to have that responsibility to teach them that there are enormous security risks around this, around privacy, around being abused, and make sure that they're aware of that, right? So when they engage, that they're armed to be able to do that, to exploit the opportunity rather than to be exploited.
Thank you very much. Juma, on your end, you have the opportunities for training youth from what you have told us. Now, how does someone get access to these opportunities that you're offering?
Well, thank you so much. How and where? I think we do collaborate with the Ministry of Information and Communication and Digital Economy. I think Michael presented in the morning that there's a digital skills curriculum that has been, that is going to bring a bit of order in our sector. I think there's been a lot of confusion when it comes to digital literacy in Kenya. And I think the ministry has taken that bold step to put in place a curriculum or a yardstick that we need to measure ourselves against from the foundational, the basic, intermediate, and advanced level. So we are supporting the ministry to implement that curriculum and also to reach the 20 million citizens that I had alluded to earlier. So our opportunities are usually delivered through partners. So we do deliver through implement partners. So for example, the project I referred to in Busia and Mandera, we deliver that through Kiktanet, Kenya ICT Action Network. We are currently having a program going on in Wajir, Garissa, Elgeyo Marakwet, and Mandera, delivering that through the African Center for Women in ICT. We also have an ongoing project in Nakuru, Nairobi, Mombasa, being delivered through British Council. So these calls go out on their respective websites. They are pushed out through social media channels, as well as on ICT Authority's website. And also to mention that we also deliver this through the ICT Authority Smart Academy.
Thank you very much. Ladies and gentlemen, if we forget everything else you have told us, what must we remember from this conversation? Starting with you, Juma.
Anything you should take away from this is that the young people require jobs now and not tomorrow. And that job should actually be made available in their rural spaces where they stay. Before we start showing them where those other opportunities are, but there's still a lot they can still do in their villages as community digital champions. Thank you.
Eric?
For me, I think it's not difficult. Right? We have to just do it. And invest in young people, create those trees that we're not going to be sitting under. It's not difficult. We just need to have the will to do it and to elevate ourselves to become the prize of the world.
Edna?
I think for me is young people are a critical component of gig work and the gig economy. So let us make it more accessible. Let us give them an environment where they're able to access, grow, and thrive while earning a dignified wage and making it as inclusive as possible to the disadvantaged, to the refugees, to the persons with disability to also thrive in the gig economy. Thank you.
Daktari?
For me, Africa is ready for transformation, and therefore every job counts. And therefore the focus should be, how do we make our continent productive, its people productive, businesses productive, but also governments productive in such a way that they help us to be able to create opportunities for everyone. I believe artificial intelligence is one way that we can double down on if we want to enhance the productivity of our continent.
Thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen. As I promised, we will not stand between you and lunch. Thank you for your attention and thank you for your time. Asanteni sana and karibuni lunch.
Thank you, Pauline, and your panel. As you receive your hampers, you know, some of the things when you talk about gig work is we forget that there are multiple layers. Some of the benefits that most of us in the room already have, because you've got a job, then you've got an insurance cover that comes with the job. Where are the social protections around gig work? Even as we encourage the youth to go into them, would you be willing to get into gig work when some of those things that you may, for example, take for granted are not readily available? We talked about digital infrastructure. We've had conversations about net neutrality. How do we then drive that connectivity component, and who's going to bear that cost? Remember, we said we must have the hard conversations, must ask the hard questions, and see where we get to that. One of the other things that I think remains unsaid is how many of us in this room can actually say that they know of a local gig platform built in Africa, made for the continent? How many of us can say that? No hands are going up. You know, fits the bill. Most of us already adopt or look towards global platforms, and it's a high time we think of then building out solutions that relate to our own ones. Kibandi, your thoughts?
Thank you. For me, I think what my key takeaways were about inclusion, bridging that digital divide through connectivity, through training, fair compensation, turning the skills into streams and passion into paychecks, awareness of the policy frameworks, the data privacy, and all of that thing, turning the gig wave into sustainable and dignified livelihoods. And I think one of the key things that I think probably people would want to remember is where to go for these skills, training opportunities, and as it was rightly highlighted, that the digital skills curriculum, together with the Ministry of ICT and Digital Economy, is there, and so they can seek the training there.
Excellent. One of the conversations I had earlier this morning was with a gentleman who was part of the team that set up Cloud Foundry, looking at also how to extend these gig work opportunities across the continent. And I'd like to pose a challenge, because I know we've got two of the largest telcos in the room. Dotted line to my earlier comment on net neutrality or zero data. How about we challenge ourselves to do a pilot where we can then open up local gig platforms to something that are essentially free to access to the youth. One of the telcos here, Safaricom, already has a youth-specific product that has over, I think, approaching 7 million youth. If you're above the age of 24, you cannot access the service. You just dial in and it tells you, sorry, this service is not for you. So how can we connect all these different things to drive some of the impactful resolutions from our time here together? And ladies and gentlemen, it's about time for lunch.
Yeah.
Always a great time, right? And as we prepare to go for lunch, again, I implore you to download the app. If you look on your lanyard, at the end of your lanyard on your name tag, there are 2 QR codes there. Please download the app. For example, there's been a change for something happening on Wednesday morning. The AmCham and Microsoft event is now open and the agenda is on there. You do require to register for it, however, and you can only do that if you get the link through the app. So after lunch, there are 4 tracks that we'll be looking at. At Dr. Meister Hall, which is where we are, We'll be having the Climate and Technology Solutions breakout at Jumuika, which is out this door to my left. We'll be looking at 5G and connectivity. Right next to that is the Kongamano breakout room that will be focused on BPO. And I'm really interested in hearing more about this mini BPO opportunities. If you can have a BPO of one, for example. And of course, within the exhibition area, to the far end of that, there's a great space called the Innovation Stage, and there we'll continue conversation on the future of work. Just a reminder, if you feel that you need to be in multiple sessions, do not worry, we'll have rapporteurs who will capture the outputs. All the sessions are also recorded, and this information or this content will be distributed right after that. Once again, a big thanks to our sponsors. Because of time, I don't think we'll run through them. So we'll see you back here for the breakouts at 1 hour's great for lunch and conversations, right?
Yes.
1 hour's good. So we'll see you back here at exactly 2:30. Enjoy your lunch. Bon appetit. The teams outside will direct you where the lunch area is. For the ladies and gentlemen right at the front, kindly follow me. The PS is waiting to receive you.
Mimi niko digital sasa. Nimepiga simu nikauza ng'ombe, sasa naweza lipia mtoto karo ya shule. Huyu sasa shule anasoma kompyuta. Na kama mtoto akigonjeka, napigia daktari simu. Huko hospitali nasaidika haraka.
Through the Universal Service Fund, USF, the Communications Authority of Kenya, CA, facilitates the provision of diverse communication services to every part of the country so that no one is left behind. The Communications Authority of Kenya, opening your world.
Nia Fiber Group Limited is a manufacturing company of fiber optic cables. This is ADSS cables, duct cables, fiber to the home. Nia Fiber was founded in 2018 as a trading company, but up to last year, July 2023, we started our manufacturing.
Being the one and only manufacturer in Kenya and East Africa, we are really focused on our quality, and we check all the raw materials before the production. And after doing that stage of production, we again have a quality assurance check that certifies that this product is all okay and it can be passed to the next stage of the production.
What makes Nia Fiber unique is we source our materials from the world-renowned top manufacturers. When you buy cables from Nia Fiber, we deliver to you within 2 weeks within the East Africa region. Within Kenya, we can also deliver you goods within 2 or 3 days. And what puts us also unique is we discuss with the customer on their specifications. An example in this case is ICT Authority asked us to do an aqua cable with 2 red stripes on their cable. Nia Fiber were able to be that flexible.
We have the world's latest machinery which we can do the production of fiber optic cables with a very good high speed and accuracy.
We currently produce, since we started, up to 12,000 kilometers of cable. 30% has gone to export. Since we started Nia Fiber manufacturing, we have created employment opportunity of more than 50 direct staff. We have also experts that we brought into the country who are transferring knowledge to the local people. And now they're able to run the machine.
Let's talk about the evolution of cybersecurity. You know it, we know it. This industry moves at light speed. Remember the 90s? The internet was young, dial-up modem was screaming, and everyone thought cybersecurity meant having a really good password. That's when we invented the first commercial firewall. While the world was still figuring out what to do with email, we were already building the foundations of enterprise security. For some people, Check Point's story ends there. A dusty old firewall company. But time in tech is funny. Blink and you might miss a revolution. The new millennium hit, and suddenly cyber threats were evolving faster than boy band hairstyles. That firewall, that was just the beginning. Then came the 2010s, a digital tsunami, cloud computing, mobile everything, and even toasters connected to the internet. That's right, toasters. The future's weird like that. Security had to evolve from protecting networks to protecting, well, everything. So we did this, we did that. We did what needed to be done. Fast forward to now. And yes, space cybersecurity. That's right, our technology is protecting space rockets. Bet you didn't see that coming in '94. And now, AI powers threats in ways we could never have imagined. Who could have guessed? Well, we could. Because this is what we've been training for all along. All that evolution has led us here. The most sophisticated AI threat intelligence engine out there. Powered by countless enforcement points. Built on 3 decades of cybersecurity insight, achieving an unprecedented 99.9% prevention rate. But it's not just about protecting networks or clouds or even space rockets. It's about protecting your business. That's the Check Point story. It's yours too. Every breakthrough, every innovation, every next big thing. We're in this together. That's security in action, every step of the way. And the next chapter? It's gonna be legendary.
As a person living with different abilities, working online has really given me the impact.
The Ajira Digital Program aims to empower over 1 million young people with digital job opportunities.
The program introduces young people to digital and digitally enabled work by providing the tools, training, and mentorship needed to work and earn an income with dignity, and is continuously improving living standards of youth globally.
And in transcription, you can get a lump sum of around 50,000, 40,000.
Through hiyo ajira, tumejua kwamba kumbe vitu unaweza weka online na upate pesa. Hivyo ndio ajira imenisaidia.
Trade has always been a powerful engine for economic prosperity. And today, nowhere is that potential for growth more urgent or more promising than in Africa. Right now, just 15% of African trade happens within the continent. The African Continental Free Trade Area can change that to unlock new markets, new industries, and therefore new jobs for millions of people across Africa. But to seize that, there needs to be a different approach which pulls down the barriers, cuts through the red tape, and brings trade fully into the digital age, harnessing the power of the technology revolution. That's why I'm proud that my institute is part of the governance framework of the new Twin Foundation that is being launched in Lusaka today. Twin, the Trade Worldwide Information Network, is a digital infrastructure for global trade built on emerging technologies. It has been tested, it works, and it can make trade faster, cheaper, more transparent, and more inclusive than ever before. So Twin is not just a piece of technology, it's a transformation, a foundation that will allow countries to modernize their trade systems, connect across borders, and realize the true promise of global trade. It's about building a digital public infrastructure that every government, every business, large or small, can access and can trust. Its strength is that it's easy to connect into existing systems, and so the investment for it is low. It's about ensuring global trade growth is powered not by bureaucracy and paper, the old-fashioned way, but by innovation and opportunity. Most importantly, Twin is built through partnership. Institutions, international organizations, forward-looking governments, all working together to deliver real and lasting change. The future of global trade, especially today, runs on digital rails.